which means twisted. But again, there are two different words, and none of them match up with tSORRY-ON's definition. The word for carpenter in the New Testament is tekton. In the Aramaic, it's nagar, which can mean craftsman, or possibly even scholar. I can find no good reason why tSORRY-ON is saying that the Aramaic word nagar means serpent priests. Again, this shows that he has a specific target in these deceptions.
Now, Madame Blavatsky, one of the greatest scholars the world has ever known, writes in this way. She says the appellation Satan in Hebrew belongs by right to the first and cruelest adversary of all other gods, Jehovah, not in the serpent which spoke only words of sympathy and wisdom.
Now, even if we accept any variation of Lucifer symbolism, in this quote, it's clear that tSORRY-ON agrees with Blavatsky, the greatest scholar the world has ever known, that what we call God should be called Satan, and the serpent is actually our good friend. In this case, he wants us to think that the serpent represents the Lemurians, not women. Lemurians, by the way, is a word that entered into our lexicon through Helena Blavatsky. I would also offer a definition of Luciferianism, which is, Luciferianism can be understood best as a belief system that venerates the essential characteristics that are affixed to Lucifer. I'm not asking you to apply any religious ideas to his assertion that God is Satan and that Lucifer is good. I just want to show you how by any definition, tSORRY-ON is a Luciferian, regardless of what he tells you that minute that the serpent represents. I will now show you a clip that will reiterate this assertion in a way that is not immediately obvious.
The spiritual beings he's referring to are known in Latin as the cosmocrates, or the angeli motivori, the angelic beings. He says the leader of these mighty beings was due to take over the direction of Western civilization in 1881. This caused considerable excitement in the esoteric circles of Washington, D.C. and the occult world in general. So now we hear that there's a hierarchy of these beings, there's a leader of these beings, and theosophists know what this means. It reminds us of Steiner and his work on the concept of Michael and Ahriman.
Not only does tSORRY-ON identify himself with theosophists here, which is no surprise because of his deep reverence for its founder, H.P. Blavatsky, but what is interesting is his reference to Steiner, because Rudolf Steiner believed that Michael and Ahriman were two aspects of the leader of the angels, Lucifer, who gave knowledge to mankind according to him, and who now resides in the sun. Now, if there is a better example of tSORRY-ON showing his core beliefs to be Masonic and Luciferian and a part of the mystery schools and not just exposing them, I'd like to hear it. But the real disturbing thing here is this weird doublespeak that I know his followers have noticed, which is that he spends so little time on these angels, or macrobes, and focuses mainly on the alien oppressors. But when he does talk about them, it's clear on the one hand he thinks that they are really what's behind all the bloodshed and wars. But then, in another place, he tells you that the leader of these angels deserves the throne of God much more than God does. It just doesn't make any sense. I want to continue to show you some of tSORRY-ON's beliefs, and how they are Masonic to the core, right down to his hope for reducing the population, and a dislike of the idea of man as the head of the family, and getting rid of all borders and national sovereignty. He will go through a list of things that he implies came into the world through the idea of the Hebrew God in the Bible. He also throws in some obviously bad ideas that I guess he wants you to think that God likes.
We have culture based on acquired inheritance. We have walled cities, enclosed cities. We have the domestication of animals. We have meat diet. We have the family organization now, with the male at the head. We have the phenomenon of overpopulation.
Even the idea of suggesting that in a utopia no one would eat meat is interesting to me, because in the Bible it makes a vivid description of what the New World Order system will look like, and oddly, tSORRY-ON's hope for humanity is close to what we see presented here. In 1 Timothy 4 verse 1 it says, "Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from meats." There will, according to the Bible, be a prohibition of eating meat and a prohibition from the standard family unit. These are two examples of tSORRY-ON's desires for the world matching up exactly as the overlords he claims to expose. Here's some more examples of tSORRY-ON subtly indoctrinating people into Freemasonic thought.
Well, the great geomanticists of the world understood that there's a feng shui of the earth as well. What happens if you want to suppress some good energy that's flowing? Put an obelisk there, put a statue, put a hideous piece of modern art. That'll do the trick, all right. And what happens if you're a decent individual and you're aware of spiritual earth energy and you want to conduct powerful vortexes of energy? Same thing, you can put a statue or an obelisk or a round circle or a stone circle there to help to transmute and transmit that energy. One of the ancient structures that could be used in this revivification process is the Great Pyramid at Giza. It was known by those who've made a study of the principles of the pyramid and its construction and its interior, know that it was used for healing and used for reconstitution of the body, and that certain monatomic substances were taken within its precinct, and that it generates certain kinds of energy and frequencies.
Most of what tSORRY-ON says revolves around the idea that a prehistoric alien race genetically altered humanity, and as a result, we humans are half evil because of that trauma. tSORRY-ON uses a very interesting tactic when speaking of this backstory. I will show you that when he is regaling us with the specifics of Lemuria and Atlantis, he never cites or even tries to cite references, which is amazing considering the very intricate details that he is proposing. Have you ever wondered how he is so confident in a history that the details of which even Plato was decidedly sketchy on? Let's listen to him spin a tale of ancient history, and ask yourself, where is he getting this information from, and why does he seem so much like a used car salesman in these next clips?
Now, the alien geneticists did not desire a repeat of their first experiments. They realized that the error centered on the intelligence of their progeny. In the Mark II experiment, Adamic man's intelligence would be confounded. Well, that's right. What was the reason why your first progeny just up and left and stopped serving you? It's because, of course, they're turned on mentally. They're intelligent. They can work out that they're being used for slaves and perhaps don't want to do some of the menial tasks. And they're thinking, why should we, with all of our capacities, and perhaps even with this other capacity that they don't have? And when it finally became known to them, you see, that another race had been created, they had a bit of a dilemma. Because one thing that the Lemurians, the sons of the serpent, the Mark I progeny, and the Adamic Mark II progeny have in common is, of course, the human DNA. And they had the alien DNA. But on Lemuria, the idea would have been to condition the alien proclivities out, or to rarefy them, so at least they were contributing to the development of mankind. But the Atlanteans, who are the master geneticists, and it's habitual to them to be dealing in genetics, they decide to make yet again another slave race, another race that will be able to serve them and carry out their bidding. However, this time they decide not to go to the human species at all, because they're sick and tired of that. They thought every time we've done that, it's never worked out. But there are other life forms on the planet Earth. There's lots of fauna, and so they were making genetic profiles of the fauna. And specifically they discovered that the DNA of the reptile, the humble earth reptile, crossed well with their own alien DNA. And when they got to Atlantis, when they got out of Atlantis and went to Lemuria, that's exactly what happened. The Lemurian masters there, the sons of the serpent, awoken the Adams and Eves gradually, slowly, and possibly even worked with their DNA to awaken the DNA and the parts of their biology and their chemistry that had also been suppressed. Now, John Dee was one of the most powerful black magicians in history. He decided it would be better to contact pan-dimensional intelligences to solve their little problem of quarantine. Via his system of magic and divination, he succeeded in opening a portal to these fourth-dimensional entities, or oversouls. Dee became what might be described as a living macroscope. This was not the first time in Earth history where such a forbidden rite was undertaken. Every time it occurs, it has the severest repercussions for history. The only instrument by which we can see them or contact the macros is human intuition, human imagination, the clairvoyant abilities which John D., Meister D., and his cohorts were working with.